Welcome to the Blind Justice Podcast, where you discover the insider secrets of injury and accident cases, and all of your law questions get answered. Now, here's your host, Chicago injury lawyer, Scott DeSalvo.
Hey guys, it's your favorite car accident lawyer, Scott DeSalvo.
Scott DeSalvo.
With my amazing co-host, Amelia Finefrock.
Hello, hello.
Amelia, thanks again for joining me.
Absolutely.
This is like our 300th. That's
probably
300th podcast.
Grammar Police is not here, so you can say whatever you want.
Clearly not.
We should have an anniversary podcast special.
We should. And really, folks, I'm looking for feedback on how we're doing with the podcasts. And that, damn it. I'm kidding. See, finally I got to use a sound effect.
You were waiting for that.
Yeah.
I was like, where's he going with this?
We talked earlier in another podcast about giving you control of the soundboard, and I think it's an unmitigated, fantastic idea because I just stare at the damn thing. I barely play anything.
Yeah,
ever.
but you know that the second you give that up, it's going to be every other second. People are going to stop listening. They're going to be like, we get it.
Yeah. Before you answer that question, let me hit a button.
Right. Let me stop you right there.
I feel like we need a buzzsaw, and then an air horn, and then some laughter.
What's wrong with that, Scott? What's wrong with that?
Good point. Touche. So, folks, we're doing our standard thing. We got some questions. One question per show, but we're answering questions that people send in on the theory that a lot of the questions injured people have are similar. And a big goal of my law firm is to educate people about injury cases, injury claims, what they need to know, what they need to look out for. And so when I get these, we answer them in the show. And obviously it's not legal advice. So if you have a case or claim, you should talk to a lawyer. Presumably that lawyer will answer your questions.
Presumably, Scott DeSalvo.
But before we get into the question, Amelia.
Yes.
What's new with you?
So I'm super excited. I just got booked by myself for my first ever, music gig. And it's for this health fundraiser downtown. I don't think I'm allowed to give the name yet. But
yeah, don't get in trouble.
I won't get in trouble.
Don't blow your gig.
Listen, I know a lawyer, okay? So, I get it. I get how...
Yeah, but we're in downtown Chicago, so saying you know a lawyer just means anywhere you go down here, you bump into a lawyer.
Touche, Scott. Touche. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. That's coming up in a couple days. Talking about being in 2 other bands. So that's going to be... It's going to be a little crazy, but I'm embracing it.
Wow, super busy.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
So this gig, do you have a band backing you?
No,
or
it's just me.
Do you play instruments, or is it a cappella?
I play guitar terribly, but they couldn't afford a
band.
I hope they never listen to this. They were like, I asked them about it. I'm like, can I bring my band? They're like, we can't afford that. So.
What about here's what you do in the future. You say, well, there are particular production constraints on the project.
Oh, nice. I like that. I'm going to have to write that one down.
Politically correct.
That was good. You've done this before. If you want to bring on as your lawyer, there's going to be
I'm just by nature so not politically correct. I've had a lifetime of putting my foot in my mouth that as you get older, you start realizing maybe I should.
Michael Scott.
My goal should be to be nicer to people.
Well, I feel like it's I feel like it's definitely a generational thing. Now I don't think it was like this 10 years ago. Everything is, you have to walk on eggshells and you're so worried about offending other people and
Agreed.
Everything is but I mean and it's always justifying what you're saying and it's.
I actually value people who just say what they mean.
Oh, yeah.
Even when somebody says something that could be interpreted as unkind to me, I'm just like, yeah, no, you're right. I am.
It's easier.
I could skip a meal.
Right. Who's saying that? That's so mean.
No, I'm just saying, you know what I mean.
Show me their names. I'm gonna beat
I
them
just
up.
like plain talk. You know, just say what it is. Why does it have to be this fancy thing?
Well, it's easier, right? I mean, you can skip cut through the red tape, as they say. Where does that come from? What does that mean?
Red tape.
Let's just cut through this red tape.
I don't know. We'll look it up. We'll answer that question on another show. I don't know.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
We have to hire an intern before we can get an intern on the show. So today's question is about like a car versus pedestrian accident. And Amelia, take it away.
I was walking on the sidewalk after a big snowstorm, and there was snow and ice all over the place. And as I was walking on the sidewalk, I walked across a driveway. I walked a little to my left because of a snow pile and a puddle. A car that was in the lane closest to the curb hit me from behind. It was a big hit, and I had to spend a week in the hospital. Now the driver's insurance said I am responsible, and they will not pay. Do you think I have a case?
As a general rule, the way it works is if you have a big injury, the bigger and more serious the injury, always talk to an injury lawyer, right? There may be a theory of recovery that you hadn't considered, and a lawyer will know all the angles. Now, they'll ask you a million questions, so you have to be patient with that. But the idea is that the bigger the injury, the more motivated the lawyer is to try and help you, because the more money you get, lawyers work on a contingency fee.
Yeah.
Most injury lawyers do. Contingency fee just means that if the lawyer's not able to get you money in the case, they don't get paid anything. And if they're able to win the case for you, either by settlement or verdict, or some other way, mediation, settlement conference, the lawyer gets paid a percentage of, what you're awarded. So the bigger injury, like here, I think the guy said, there was a week-long hospital stay.
Yeah.
Man, medical bills are expensive these days,
oh my gosh.
right? So if you get hit by a car and you're in the hospital for a week, definitely let a lawyer look at that, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to pedestrian cases, pedestrian versus car, the gold standard is a pedestrian crossing the street with a green light in a marked crosswalk, paying attention.
Yeah.
And then they get hit by a car. But I'm here to tell you that's rarely how these happen, right? The worst case is you're drunk, it's midnight, there are no streetlights, you're crossing in the middle of a block, you're dressed like a ninja with no reflective clothing.
That was my Tuesday. How did you?
Well, that's every Tuesday from what I understand about you. Where's
the laugh track?
This is less. Wait, here. There's gotta be one.
Boo.
Yeah, really. I'm terrible at this.
Another time.
Wait, here. Does this?
There we go. Our live studio audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like that's pretty weak.
It was weak.
We need like a big laughter track.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll work
another
on that.
time. Yes. So they were wearing a ninja outfit.
Yeah, they're in complete black, crossing
Tuesday
the middle
night.
of the street, and then a car hits them, and they're crossing where they're not supposed to be crossing. They're intoxicated. They're texting on their phone.
Jaywalking.
Exactly, right? So those are like the two continuums from a really great place, really great case to a really tough case.
Yeah.
This sounds like it could be a perfectly fine case, right? So
like it.
Somebody's still walking along the sidewalk, and then they're crossing a driveway, and they go a little bit to their left to avoid a bunch of snow, and then the car nearest them hits them. When you're in a car and you see somebody near the curb, you have to pay attention, right?
Right.
This is one of those cases where it's entirely possible that a jury might decide the person walking in the driveway area, walking to their left, closer to the street, is partially responsible, and the driver is partially responsible.
Yeah.
But, as long as we can prove that the car driver was more than 50% responsible, 50% or more responsible, then we can recover, right? So that's something to keep in mind. And whenever things like this come up, it always makes me think, like, when you're walking down the street and you're careless, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you might bump into somebody. You might even knock them down. But it's more likely that you're just going to bump shoulder to shoulder. You'll say you're sorry. Everybody goes their own way. When you're driving a car that weighs 2,000 pounds, if you bump somebody at a mile or 2 an hour, you can break a bone. I mean, the amount of force.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why sledgehammers are used to demolish property, because it's a 5-pound weight, and you swing it, and its force is mass times velocity, right? So the heavier a thing is, or the faster a thing is going transfers more force to the thing that's hit.
Yikes.
So bumping into somebody as a 200-pound man is, maybe not ideal.
No.
But a 2,000-pound car generates 10 times that amount of force, right? So you're going to knock people down. You can throw them in the air. You can break bones. So when you're driving a car, you have to be that much more careful, or at least you should be, right?
It's a weapon.
Yeah. Again, a hospital stay, very expensive.
Overnight, yeah.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. How long did he say? Was it overnight?
A week.
Yeah, a week.
Yeah,
a week in a hospital,
overnight.
You could easily be, it could be $100,000 in bills just for a week in a hospital.
Sucks.
Depending on, what the injuries are. I don't think he said what the injuries are, but.
And the food's not even that good for $100,000.
Yeah.
You're not even getting good food,
The last thing I want to say about this is whether it's a good insurance company or a bad insurance company that driver has, a lot of it depends on what the driver tells his insurance company, right?
Right.
So if the driver says, you know what, I was tuning my radio and I didn't see him at all, if he's honest, maybe his insurance company, if they're one of the better ones, will say, let's try and settle. But if it's a crummy insurance company and they know that they've got low policy limits, they have a policy of fighting everything, it almost doesn't matter what their insured, the driver says happened, they're probably going to fight the case. So in conclusion, I guess what I would say is that in a car versus pedestrian injury case like this, investigation, are there any other witnesses?
Right.
But definitely anytime there's a car versus a person, there's probably going to be some pretty good injuries. Yeah. So I would definitely say talk to a lawyer. Lawyer can probably help you out, and sorry that happened to you, but if you need a lawyer, you can call me or any of the other fine attorneys available.
Now, I have a question. I don't know if I can ask you this, but in your opinion, do you have any insurance companies? 'Cause you just said there are some that are crummy. There are some that are some of the better ones. Do you have an opinion on that you can share?
I definitely do. I don't want to name on the show the ones I think are good and the ones I think are bad. I can tell you, though, it's something we can talk about off air. And folks, if you have a question about who you think if you want my opinion on an insurance company you're dealing with, probably your question is answered based on how they're treating you. But if you want to give me a call or send me an email and ask me whether the insurance company you're dealing with is a good one or a crummy one, I'm happy to answer that. But this is what I can tell you. All of the insurance companies, as time has gone by, are tending to defend and fight more and more because they save money. It's a shame. Insurance in car crash cases is a numbers game. So they collect premiums. If they can delay payment, reduce payment, or deny payment on claims, they get to keep all the money in premiums, right? That's how the business works. So they've got a profit motive not to pay or to underpay you. Sad but true.
It is.
Thanks for listening, folks, and catch us for our next show, which will be released. I release these pretty much weekly.
You do. Yeah, you do a good job.
100% I do.
Cue the clapping.
Wow. That is a lot of applause.
That is a full audience.
I don't know what you did, but
it's your podcast.
They are super happy about.
Wow. That's like a rainfall. It just keeps going.
Yeah, and that's not just that. It's like that's like a orchestra or like an opera. Everybody's giving us a standing ovation.
Oh my gosh.
Then we've got like this one.
That one's sad.
That's like Jerry Springer.
That one's
kind
like,
of. All three of the people agree with you.
Yeah, that's like, who's here from Michigan? It's like,
Yeah, right. Exactly. Thanks for listening, folks. We will catch you next time. Thanks for listening. I truly hope that the information in the podcast helps you no matter the situation you find yourself in. But you might need more answers or some more direct help. So there are 3 ways for you easily to find out more and to get help. If you call my toll-free 24-hour helpline, 888-HURT-318, you'll have a couple of options. 888-HURT-318 is my toll-free 24-hour telephone line. You can call that number and speak with my team night or day. First, you can call 888-HURT-318, and you can speak to me for a free consultation about your case or situation. That's always free and no obligation. Second, you can tell the operator that you'd like a free copy of my injury DVD and book. I created the DVD and book, and I give it away for free to injured people who need answers but who might not be ready to talk to a lawyer yet. Same deal, 100% free, 100% no obligation. Third and finally, you can check out my YouTube channel for informative videos about the injury case and claims process, or check out my other podcasts for more information and interesting interviews with people who know different things about various aspects of the law. I've put all of this together to help you and to answer your questions. Now, you can also help me, and I hope that you will. If you enjoyed the podcast and if it helped you at all, please subscribe, and if you can, take a minute and please post a positive review of the show. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you know anyone who might enjoy the podcast, please spread the word and share it on Facebook. It's my mission to spread good information to as many people as possible, and your liking and reviewing and subscribing to the podcast helps me get the word out. Thanks again. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It doesn't substitute for consulting with a lawyer. If you have a case, speak with a lawyer right away.